I really am thrilled to have heard Gertsch speak, because every word he said is absolutely correct. And the politicians, of which I was one, get post bags. People write to you. And the only time that they ever write to you is if something's going to close. And they ask you to defend, and they hug the building. And if you're not in the photograph with them, well, then obviously you don't care about their service. I don't know how internationally that fits with you, because many of the countries that would be, you know, of our world, of our very changing world and unequal world, would not have a clue what we're talking about, because they don't have any facilities, or they struggle to have. How can you struggle to be able to have a clean glass of water? And how do we in this developed world, with this very strong economy, regardless of what happened in the last few years of the economic crash, still very, very strong, observe the fact that people cannot have clean water to drink in countries which actually are very rich and have a very, very, very well educated and affluent middle and upper class, and have done for some time. And I would say to you, you cannot, and I'm a nurse for 30 years, that might give me more credibility than being a politician, but the reality is that you can't have health unless you have education. That is what I feel very, very strongly about. And yes, I'm privileged to still did work with former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, who is now the United Nations Global Ambassador for Education. And he is passionate about the Millennium Development Goal. And by 2015, we said at the start of this millennium that we would have every child of the world in school. We said that in 2000. We now, in some areas, we've met the target. In others, nowhere near that target. And why? Why don't countries want their children to go to school? Why don't they want the girls to read? You know, that wonderful, that's the previous presentation, that wonderful young woman, Malala, who I have heard speak. She is, as far as I'm concerned, former President Nelson Mandela was the man that lit up my life and the world. And I stood as a member of anti-apartheid for years, never ever dreaming that we would see his freedom. And then they say, will you ever see the like again? I actually think Malala is starting to become that wonderful leader with that wonderful passion and the naughtiness and the cheekiness that she has when she speaks. She captures you. She embraces you, and this tiny little figure stands there to say, just at that crucial moment.
You have a clicker? You would like to use a clicker while you talk?
Yeah. And there may be, there may be a video I'd have liked to have shown, but I don't know how that goes. But this will be fine as if we're going through, but without any words.
Oh, because it's playing a video, you just need to play from there.
From where?
From the screen here.
Right.
So that takes up to the video. Let's be streaming now in a second.
That's fine.
This is the first slide.
And then I would, to move it,
You just need to press this.
It's right, fine. Simply. Thank you.
So when it comes to video, just try to select the screen, the video from here.
Yes.
So automatically it'll start playing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I think. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's lovely.
Okay, just try to press it hard if it doesn't work. Just the buttons there. Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Right. Lovely. Thank you for your help. Thank you. Well, Malala said I don't know whether any of you have heard her speak. Is that something that you, even on the recordings, she addressed the United Nations. She addressed the Youth Assembly of the United Nations. And part of what my passion would be today is to get, via Halala, all of you to join a world at school. It's my aim that we get Gordon Brown to this university. It's my aim that he comes here with a success as the United Nations Ambassador for Global Education. But unless we're doing something about that, well, you know, I'm not saying why should he come, but you know, if out there, good luck, Jonathan, the Nigerian president, he met when those girls were captured. Why were those girls captured? Anybody want to offer a? Because the captors did not want them to learn to read, did not want them to go to school, did not want them to have the opportunity that every one of us, including myself, has got in this room. I cannot look at myself in the mirror, for a variety of reasons, but I cannot look at myself in the mirror to say I did not stand with my sisters and brothers across the world who are not having an education. And you are the privileged ones, aren't you? Because you're not in a primary school here. You're having higher education. And wow, and then with that knowledge and with that confidence, you will go back or wherever you are staying, living, working, and make a difference. And you will struggle to make that difference. But you will still have much more confidence than if you've never been to school. How would you possibly know what to do if you've never been to school? And 57 million children are not learning. I mean, that is shocking beyond belief. Because what can we expect then if they've never been to school? Can we expect them to be rational, thinking citizens as they grow up? Wanting to share nice thoughts with the rest of the world? I believe somebody else will want to give them an education that isn't about us all living and enjoying each other's company and sharing each other's culture. I think it's a recipe for disaster right around the world if this doesn't happen. And I so want you as a group, if out of this conference so many things will come out that might seem much more relevant to you. But I say, if those little children of Syria, look at Syria. Some of them were in school, and now they're in a refugee camp. And the average stay will be between 10 and 12 years in the refugee camp. So when they come out of that, they will have no education whatsoever. Well, a deal has been done with Ban Ki-moon at the United Nations and with Gordon and other people who are as interested as him. And they are now in the Lebanon where they are in the refugee camps, they're having double shifts of school time. So that the children are trying at least to have something for when they are moved out of those intolerable conditions, that they will at least have something as young teenagers to live to. And that takes effort, but you know, it also takes us to do something about this. Malala stood up on that bus when the Taliban shot her. And what she says in her opening remarks is, I was a girl going to school with a book. And they were afraid of that. I was a girl going to school with a book, and I could read. And they did not want that. And now she's speaking at the United Nations, encouraging others to have what is absolutely a right to have education. Because if we don't have that, we don't have health. Because how do we educate the mum in healthcare? How do we get the young women to realise that their bodies are their own bodies and they're not to be sold and they're not to be put into, I mean, I think Malala's also started Marriage Busters. I mean, how brave can little one be? And we heard our forced marriages law came into action this week. We need, now, if you are religious, if you are just a humanitarian like myself, you would say this is right. But if you actually were a straightforward economist, you would have to say that this is right. Because Africa, and certainly Nigeria, will become so rich in the next 10 years. Its middle class is going to treble, and its people haven't been to school. Well, that economy will not stay stable. It can't. And the world cannot possibly stay stable. And Bill Gates' amazing gift to the world with vaccines is incredible. But what if there's no health system in place? As Scott said, he talked about systems and the right systems and the people. There's that wonderful part of India, is it Kerala? Kerala, which is an example of a village looking after its people and the difference it's made to that community, similar to how Gersh talked about getting the community involved rather than saying you will do this from now on. But school is so important. Would you come with me on this journey of getting a world at school from your positions as students at the University of Bedfordshire? Yes. Because I believe that we can make such a difference if we involved our local schools, and we got those involved, and if we got every university in the country saying, we are asking for all the world's children to go to school. We have got, when he met with the Prime Minister, Goodluck Jonathan, to talk about the school and the safety, they got money. They got money now to make the schools safer. They've got money to invest in education. And the argument that convinced them the most was the economic. Our country, it's funny that Gersh talked about white working class children not having the opportunity in the same way as others, and that's going to be quite a controversial discussion. But as a politician and as a nurse, one of the best things I ever did for anybody's health was be on the committee that brought in the minimum wage. We didn't have a minimum wage in this country till 98. You can't actually have the same health opportunities if you are economically on the floor. You can't. So if we are looking now globally, we have an absolute right of entry into other countries to say, get your kids in school. And I don't know whether this is going to work. I'll just go to the next one. Total number of children of primary age who are out of school, over 500,000. Okay, that won't do it. Now, I hope I sign my name to 10.5 million. I sent Hala all the links all of the time about how we can sign. The pressure that we can put on these governments, because it's not about a lack of funds, is it? I mean, why do some countries not educate their children? Corruption. Poverty. Want to keep them down. In particular, girls. It's true. I want equality for all, but we do know that it's girls that are not given that opportunity. This is the website from that, Malala. She's very naughty and cheeky when she answers questions, and that made me love her even more because she's so powerful with her courage. And so she seems like she's 85 one minute, and 16 the next, which is good. And again, I'm going to do my utmost to bring her to the university. But she's just finished her GCSEs, and she's under orders from her father to do her homework rather than to tour the country doing speeches. She said she wanted to be a doctor. She now says she wants to be a politician. She said that as a doctor she could help a small amount of people. As a politician in Pakistan she would help more and encourage more. So I don't know, but I think we should just watch her. So it's time to speak up and speak out. Those are the figures. So how can those people have any health? What hope is their health? And so they die. And we watch them die while we're eating our tea on television, eating our diet food, because we need to now go on a diet while the other half of the world is starving to death. I mean, so people like yourselves with a really, really good education is your problem. It really is your problem. 34 million adolescent girls not in school. That's just like, what? See, the camera captures poor health. The camera captures malnutrition. The camera can go to the water that's dirty and muddy, and then the woman gets the saucepan into that water, and you know what? Thanks to Nestle and their big corporate movement are telling her that actually baby milk powder is better for her baby than what she has in her own breast. She then makes the bottle with the dirty, filthy water, and Nestle know this is going on, and yet the pictures of the healthy baby is what the young woman is seeing and thinks, I want my baby to have that, maybe I should get that milk, and the babies die and there's a film, Death by a Bottle, and it's shocking that they still get away with that. But what the camera doesn't show is a picture of somebody, and they haven't had any education. So you can't sort of see the fact that you haven't got knowledge. And that's why I'm so strong about this today. Syria, for all the reasons that we watch the news, there will be a variety of opinions maybe in this room, and I'm sure they'll all be honourable opinions as to what is happening. But, those little ones, what did they do wrong? And now they've been out of education for 3 years, which is why they stepped in to get these double shifts going in the schools. I'll go back to that one. I want to leave with Hayla, who Hayla is wonderful, and your team is wonderful because of what you're doing. It's really, really important. The community we live in, yes, has underprivilege, but how lucky are we? Really. And therefore, what are we going to do with this knowledge? Because years ago, we didn't know. A century ago, we didn't know that people weren't going to school when we were going to school. I didn't know people weren't going to school when I went to school. I now know. So what's this generation, what's your generation of educated young people going to do about it? Now, I haven't got the privilege of knowing what you and knowing where you're which countries you come from, people that are studying here from the UK. I have no idea when I look around this room. But what I do know is that there are still women dying in childbirth because nobody knows how to put 1 or 2 stitches in, which is normal, but they die. I know that women say goodbye when they go to give birth, because they feel they're more likely to die. So I know that our midwives and our health and our doctors are doing their very best. I know that technology is able to help in those areas. It's not that they don't care about their women dying, it's they don't know what to do. And so therefore, I just feel as a citizen of the world who has similarities with football and difficulties, because my team's Middlesbrough, so that's as bad as Wolves, really. It's tough. But I can go and do all of these things. I have had the opportunity, even though I came from a father who was a steelworker and a granddad who was a miner, in a working class home in North Wales. But what my dad said was, it's really important that you get an education. And I bet you've all been told very similar. So we have got to get 57 million into school. And we have got to do it with our passion and the knowledge that we have about health. Because there is no point in us giving health programs if people can't read. And I would really hope that we can, from today, I know it's too difficult, I think, to get the videos to be shown, and it's not necessarily necessary. If I can get the one for you to see at some time of Malala speaking at the UN, that is something.
Is that the one you sent to me by email?
Yes.
That was the last two slides I showed. You want to show them here? So.
Right. Let me.
Yeah. Go back.
End of slideshow, it says. It's very short. It's only a few minutes.
Okay.
I don't know.
Go forward, please.
You do it.
Yeah.
That
Which one?
the girls with books.
Yeah. So this one.
That one.
The one over here. This
Yeah.
one. Okay. We'll see if it works.
I'd like to have some time for any questions on how to do this, how to get involved, and how to be part of it here, if there are.
Where is the man?
No.
Maybe the technology man. He's outside.
Is he? Oh.
Yeah. I asked him to stay. Okay. Never mind. What I will do instead of wasting our time on that, on trying to get this technology works, what I'll do is I will forward the email for you, the information from Anne, which has actually the film she wanted to show you, and you can watch the film in your own time. I will also promise to forward the link which Gerge already gave to me this morning, where you can see the interview. Part of it was an interview.
Can we not do it now?
But most of it.
It's this we want to show.
This one. Anybody who's better than me in technology?
There's a gentleman coming,
Yeah.
walking forcefully to the front.
Yeah. While they are trying to sort out technology, it's very important. Anne spoke about things which are actually major in our thinking. First, knowledge is very important, but I would say knowledge is not knowledge unless it's actually criticized, debated, and shared. Otherwise, it would be useless, the knowledge. So the knowledge you gain from here, we expect you to use this knowledge in future time. And also the other thing is the link between education, poverty, and... Oh wow, that sounds really good.
That's nothing to do with me, that is not part of my presentation.
Yeah, nothing to do. Maybe I take the responsibility, but I think the IT man ran away. As you can see, they come four of them together when I shout.
I will have lost you now anyway, because you can't. It's impossible to sit in a room for a few hours and then have this and then go back to what we were talking about.
But
So
don't worry, I'll leave it to you, Anne, to do your closing. Don't worry about the technology for now.
Right. Okay. Well, I think my closing, I hope we can have a discussion I don't know whether you've ever thought about, those Millennium Development Goals were very ambitious, but we have made good headway in an awful lot of them. And 2015 is, of course, next year. Governments have understood the...
Okay, no, you talk.
Oh, right, okay, hang on, yeah. Forgot what I was saying now. Governments have moved, and governments are more likely to move when it's in their own self-interest. And actually, it's been proven that if we are not having children in school, well, then others are. And that's quite serious. And by others, I mean people that do not want us to sit around in a room discussing and having knowledge, and that young girls go off to higher education, as is proven by the recent event in Nigeria, and certainly in relation to the Taliban.
Looks like the video has not been hyperlinked, so it doesn't automatically connect.
Okay.
Do you know where the source of the video is? On YouTube?
It's just on YouTube.
Okay, I can play that on the YouTube.
You're very patient, all of you, with this. It's not been my finest hour, but football. That's Gersh's influence there now.
The first
Have you
one?
really got somebody speaking from Brazil University?
Yeah?
Is the first one at the top? Which video is that?
Yes.
The first one, I think.
You gonna play the video?
Fantastic.
Shall I
See,
play the video
determination works.
now? Shall I play the video
Yes,
now?
please. Yes.
So,
This is called Girls with Books. Oh, that's the point.
One child,
You take that one.
one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Education is the only solution. Education first. In India, innocent and poor children are victims of child labor. Many schools have been destroyed in Nigeria. In many parts of the world, especially Pakistan and Afghanistan, terrorism, wars, and conflicts stop children to go to their schools.
I heard a blast. There was a heat I have feel. Then I don't remember anything. I don't think anybody can be alive there who was in the sitting and back. You know, the bad dreams, the nightmares, and I think it was a nightmare. I was swelled, my face was totally swelled, and my hands were swelled and burned. I can feel pain. We have to adopt change. Let your women get education. It's their human right.
We call upon all governments to ensure free, compulsory education all over the world for every child. We realize the importance of light when we see darkness. We realize the importance of our voice when we are silenced.
She's just 16, well, she's 15 when she
The
was saying it.
Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends too.
जो स्कूल से वापसी पे दोपहर के टाइम हम वापसी पे आ रहे थे, हमारी स्कूल बस को किसी ने रोका। पीछे कोई शख्स आया, मेरे दोस्त ने मलाला पे शूट किया, उसके बाद मुझ पे किया। बहुत सारा खून पड़ा हुआ था। अब पुलिस के बगैर तो जाने नहीं देता कि नहीं आपके साथ पुलिस। तो वो बाइक पे होते हैं, हमारे साथ जाते हैं। जब वापस आए वही बात और वही जगह उसी रास्ते से गुजरना पड़ता था, तो बहुत डर सा लग रहा था कि कहीं फिर ऐसा ना हो जाए। या क्यों हम नहीं तालीम हासिल कर सकते हैं? क्यों हम लड़कों से पीछे रहे? हमें उनके मुकाबला ही जाना चाहिए। हमें भी दम है, हम भी तालीम हासिल कर सकते। तो उसी वजह से मलाला इतनी टफ हालात में भी, ऐसे भी हालात में ही लड़कियों की तालीम के बारे में आवाज उठाई।
The Taliban, they thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed. And out of that silence came thousands of voices.
This has caught the imagination and the attention and the sympathy and compassion of the entire world.
तो मेरे बचपन से ख्वाब था कि मैं डॉक्टर बनूं, और अगर मैं अपनी तालीम जारी ना रखूं और स्कूल ना जाऊं, तो मैं किस तरह अपना ख्वाब पूरा कर सकती हूँ?
Welcome to Britain. We're so pleased that you're here. You're such a courageous people.
इल्म एक ऐसी रोशनी है कि जिसकी वजह से इंसान इंसान है, वरना उसके बिना कुछ भी नहीं।
Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are our most powerful weapons. Education is the only solution. Education first.
Thank you for watching that. It's difficult to watch. It's difficult to watch in a room where people have come from all over the world in different ways and been affected in different ways. And yet, I don't believe that anybody in the room would think it was wrong what you do. But I can't let that little lass stand up like that without supporting her. And I think if I'm privileged enough to have a role in a university and I don't do anything about it, well then I am really, really letting her down. And I know that all of you will not do that and that you'll find a way. I'm working with the Vice-Chancellor is aware that we are trying to get this set up here, and getting people's diaries is like a nightmare. However, Hayla and others and maybe Gershon, others, all of you, anybody that wants to be part of the team that brings this about, that the University of Bedfordshire is part of it, I would be so, I would just be with you, and it would be the right thing to do, because we do know what the right thing to do is. And so thank you for listening. And if there's any questions, I'd be really happy to take them.
We have a few minutes to your lunch, with the hope that the lunch is there or coming there, maybe, hopefully, but we make sure that it's there. But before we go to lunch, we have a few minutes, and you can ask a few questions if you want to Anne, and I'm sure she will be happy to answer. Any questions? Left? My left? No? Central? You're all happy? Or you're hungry?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And
It's a question or lunch, isn't
Yeah?
it? Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I think Malama was an inspiring young girl. And again, as we said in the morning, never underestimate the commitment of few individuals, because they can change the world. And somebody like Malala, who was 15 when she was shot, and she's trying to change the world. But Malala on her own can't. But all of us together, one hand can do clapping, but lots of hands can make lots of noise. And I'm one of the supporters of an initiative for making something here at the university, and taking the first step towards building this global movement, if you like, towards education of girls. And I know it from my own experience. People back in my country in the Middle East who are around the same age group as mine weren't privileged to have education because they were poor. So instead of going to schools, they went and worked as servants in the rich people's houses. And when I go back, and recently we went back and saw some of these girls and what their life ended up and where my life ended up. Not because I was smarter than them, and I'm sure you can all relate to that, but because I was given opportunity. I was lucky to be given opportunities which some of these girls and boys weren't allowed these opportunities. So it's now our time, as people who had these opportunities in different ways in our life, to pass these opportunities for the future generation. So then they can have some opportunities or part of the opportunities which we already have. And in this country, it's very interesting talking about education, because all the prime ministers and all the older generations of politicians who benefit from free educations here in UK are the ones who actually voted for the high fees for the university students, the local students. So it's very interesting how things we benefit from as an older generation, we are preventing the young generation to come from that. I link that with the thing which Anne said, which is very important. How can we educate people? How can we change health? If people actually are not educated, if people don't know the value of the knowledge we're passing to them to change their life. So we ended up in like a dead-end road if we don't start from the basic, which is giving them the opportunities, giving them the voice, giving a voice for the voiceless. As Malama said, that's what she did. She gave a voice, and she is joined by other people.
Absolutely. That Malala has become the figurehead, and I suppose I worry for her really that that's the case, because there are lots of Malalas that are doing their best that hasn't got the same publicity. But what she did was she formed the movement. She started the campaign off, and she's got a heavy load really. But she's certainly, I saw her heard her speak on International Women's Day in March this year in London, and she was certainly more than up for the fight and wanted to get back to tell her brothers off that plays too much on their Xbox rather than do their homework, was her parting words for the boys. So she's got her eye on the boys as well.
Any final thoughts or comments? Yes, please.
Personally, I would have thought that free education is something that can also help to allow girls have this education, because out there, especially in Africa, you've got lots of people that are interested in education. You've got lots of girls that want to go to school, but due to financial reasons, they don't have the ability, they don't have the opportunity to go to school. We that we're here are only privileged because we've got maybe a little finance to come down here and get the education. there are lots of people out there, lots of people in other countries that want to come in school. They are far better than us. They're more intelligent than us. They're way ahead of us. If we had the same opportunity, they would have been higher than us. But the problem is the finance is not there.
Absolutely.
People are not getting to the roots, grassroots, where actually these things are needed. At the end of the day, you find out that people that could actually afford it are the ones still having this privilege, while we are not tackling the problem.
And that's why we've got to go to
Yeah,
the
to the
governments of
grassroots.
the governments of those countries and say, actually, you do have the money to build schools, and we know the international world, the UN, will help you where that's needed. I mean, lots of girls aren't allowed to go to school because there's no toilets in the schools that they've got there. They won't let them go because of how the body changes on a monthly basis. They won't let them go. But there is a change, and that's what I wanted you to see. The UN have said now, this is important. The publicity that those young women had when they were captured a few weeks ago outraged some feminists in the movement to say, well, this is happening every day, and we haven't had it on the news every day. Of course it's happening every day, but if that large number created more publicity, sadly, but created it for more people to get involved, for ambassadors' wives around the world, for leaders' wives, for Michelle Obama to be up with her, the hashtag line and everything like that. This movement is changing. That's why I want us to be part of it. If I'd have come into this university 10 years ago and have said, we'd like this to happen, it would have been an interesting lecture, and maybe one or two would have thought, yes, that really interests me. But you see, it's already out there. The movement, the web, the internet, the social media has created now this Avaz, who is one of the best people to have a petition with. I mean, within seconds, can get thousands and thousands of people from all over the world signing petitions, going to world leaders. It has changed. Young people have been so courageous. You are all, so, I mean, how more courageous can you get than to continue after incidents of that nature? And that wasn't soldier to soldier, that was Taliban to young women reading a book on a bus. So it's like, we know that's wrong. So I think now is the time to really continue with this momentum, if we can. And I'll keep banging on your door.
I told you she's passionate, didn't I? Okay, we're taking the last question because we're taking time from your break. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Mine is based on observation. I think this movement is good, but you see, my concern here is that what are you doing about ensuring accountability? Because it's very serious. From experience, I know there is issue of universal basic education, and we knew that funds are going there. I don't think anything has changed. I watched in the news last night that Mr. Godin went to Nigeria, I think, an issue of fund of $2 billion. So I don't know, is there anything, any policy strategy that we look into ensuring, attaining accountability?
There is more information about that, because you're so right to raise it in that way. And one of the ways of accountability is that we actually have people in the area, educators in the area, that are observing. Sounds such a weak thing to say, but actually we are now aware that we have got to have much more influence on the money, and that the UN will put in people to give as much assurance, knowing that will still be so difficult to do. So very difficult to do. But when you've got people, like, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, actually said he did not go to school, primary school. He understands He knows what this is like and how he got his opportunities later. So you have got world leaders. You've got Clinton, certainly did have Nelson Mandela, but you have got world leaders now, many of them who will never stand for office again, which makes a huge difference to what they will say and do, are involved in every way they can. But your voices are as important as theirs, because it's the many that now, and social media, which obviously isn't my forte, but it really is powerful, that girls around the world are saying, we support, we're with you. Because we should be. Because I just was born in another part of the world. But I'm still got all the same thoughts, dreams, ambitions, problems as others have. And it's time we recognise our privilege. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was very good. You have your